All right, guys, what's up? I'm Heath with Forged America, parent company of Forged Leather. I haven't forgotten you guys. I really love doing these tutorial videos, but we've been so busy here lately, I just really haven't had a lot of time. So there's one question. I'm going to jump right into this, try to move through it pretty quick. There's one question we've been getting a lot of popping up on our page, and that's our extreme distressing. Some of our leather wallets, if you look, haven't sewn this one yet, but this right here is just a simple distressed leather wallet that we do. And before anybody makes any comments, yes, I do work with 9 Line Apparel. I make one of their leather wallets, so there's no copyright issue here. Okay, just want to throw that out there because a lot of pieces that you see us make in our tutorials do have 9 Line's logo on it. I do make wallets for 9 Line Apparel out of Savannah. So this is right here is just our standard, light brown, tan, whatever you want to call it. While it does have some slight distressing on it, I mean, it's hard to tell on here, but a lot of you have questioned how we do the darker version of our wallets, the darker version that has this distressing. If you can see it right here, it has this distressing right here, because if you dye this is a Thievings Pro Dye, that's all we use. It's a Thievings Pro Dye chocolate, and anybody who's used Thievings Pro Dye, use the chocolate color, you're looking at this and you're like, there's no way that's chocolate. That's not chocolate, because it has these light pieces in it. And just even the sanding method that we use on the lighter pieces to give it a little bit of distressing around the edges will not work on when you have darker pieces. When you have darker pieces, you have to distress it a lot more intensely. You have to really dig in there. And so a lot of you have asked me how I got that kind of distressed look. I'll throw up some after pictures when we get this whole thing finished. But a lot of you have asked how we get that because you've had a hard time using the method that you've seen us do in the past. So I'm going to take you and show you our extreme distressing on this leather. Just want to show you this, if you want to look at the two. So this is after it's been distressed. This is after it's actually been finished. Oiled, distressed, engraved, oiled, distressed, and resined. Got a finish on that. This is before. So this is what extreme distressing looks like of leather. So let's jump out here to the shop, take a look at how we do our extreme leather distressing. Come back in here, we'll oil it up, put a resin on it, show you guys, we'll finish it up and do a little sewing with the Cowboy Outlaw. Also, got some tips on the Cowboy Outlaw. I've been using this thing for about 6 months now. Got some tips that I've learned that might help you guys out if you use a Cowboy. If you're considering getting it, I've got some tips that will show you. Anyway, let me jump off here. Let's go to the shop. All right, so as you can see, I've got some pieces here that I've dyed. This is going to be a little loud, so you can see right here where the color of the chocolate, this is, like I said, this is Tandy Thievings Pro Dye chocolate. See there? Now we're going to put an extreme distressing on that, and we're going to do it with this bad boy right here. All right, here we go. Let's take a look and see. You're going to see a huge difference here. See the difference? Extreme distressing, no distressing. So this actually makes the process. This actually makes the leather really, really smooth as well. And any engraving or embossing that you'll have, it's really going to make it stand out. So that looks fantastic. As far as the sanding, I need to change this one out. It's all burnt out, but as far as the actual sanding pad that we use, I use a 320 or higher on this, so it's really smooth. You don't want to use anything really lower than that because it's going to make a rough sanding. You don't want a rough sanding on that. You want it to be nice and smooth. So now we'll go in and we'll put some oil in this. It's going to darken it up some. Let's go inside, put some oil in it, and finish up. All right, so we've got the piece that we just sanded. You can see this is my messy oil plate. Basically what oiling leather can make a mess, but it's definitely worth it. Basically I just take paper towels, a piece of cloth. You're gonna run right over it. Look at there. It's going to change the color. That's going to change the color. It's going to darken it up. What it's basically going to do is make a really rich looking color when it's finished. Get all that oil in there. I like to kind of rub it in. Some people tell you that's not necessary. I like to do it because it does help break up the stiffness of the leather. Once leather's dyed and finished, it gets really stiff after it's been dyed. Returning some oil to it gives you a little bit of flexibility back into it. And that's what you want. Now when that dries, you're going to have something that looks kind of like this. Still doesn't look great. Still got this unfinished look, kind of dull. We're going to add some Resin to that in a little bit. That's going to make it look great. Alright, so here it is. I've let the oil dry. Once you've oiled these things, let it dry. You'll start seeing where this distressed portion is kind of getting white. Got a little white tint to it there. Just, that's what it looks like. It still does not look fabulous. Got some unfinished look to it. Got to put a finish on it. So I've got some Resin. I use Phoebe's Resin. I use a brush, a foam brush. You don't want to go crazy thick on this. You just want to make sure all the crevices, see the 9-line logo there. You want to make sure all the Resin gets in there. Get you a nice steady even coat. You don't want to put too much in there. This doesn't take very long to dry. You can see right there, you've already got that little sheen look to it. Looks good. You don't want too much of a sheen. What I like to do is once I'm done with it and this is dried, what I like to do is take a very, very fine sanding block and basically just buff over that. We're going to set this off to the side, let it dry. So I got one, I actually have one over here that I've finished. So as you can see, there's your distressed look. I got to buff it up. You got a little place right there. You buff it up a little bit. You got that. Here's a more finished. There you go. And that right there is how we do. You have a nice distressed piece. It looks really good. We'll get over there to the Cowboy Outlaw in just a little bit and sew this bad boy together. Put a little more buffing on it. So we've got the wallet glued together. And for anybody asking, I use EcoFlow's leather weld. So there it is. So there you have that distressed look with the extreme distressing. Wow, that looks great. Oh, groovy. We're about to stitch it together. And one reason I wanted to show the stitching, I've showed our stitching before, but one reason I wanted to show the stitching in this video is because we're going to be using the Cowboy Outlaw, and I got a few things to say about the Outlaw, good and bad points, but a few tips I think will help anybody that's either planning on getting one of these or is using one. And anybody that has any tips for us, throw it out there, because there's a lot to this thing that I love, and then there's some things that I'm not so fond of. So anyway, let's go ahead and get down here. We'll start in this corner. We'll start in this corner and we'll sew all the way around. Now, I'm going to start on the second hole instead of the first one. And the reason being is the tie-off. You're going to have a tie-off here and here when you're using the Outlaw. This is one of the huge drawbacks from using this thing that I'm not a fan of. You'll notice I have tape right here. It's because I bought the extra plate that goes with this to kind of give me something to, you know, rest my leather on when I'm sewing. But one of the reasons I have, one of the issues I have with this thing is the tie-off. They say you can do a back stitch, and the back stitch will, I've seen videos where people saying that a back stitch, if you just stitch a few and then come back and do a back stitch, it'll tie off. It does not. And if it does for you, tell me how you did it, because I can assure you it did not do it for me, and it does not work for me, and it makes a really ugly stitch. But I'm going to show you how to do a tie off. If you hand sew leather, you already know how to do a cowboy stitch. You already know how to do that kind of stitch. So we're going to show you at the end of this how to do that. We'll use Kelly. Y'all can hear Kelly over here inside doing stuff, edging leather. Oh, she's edging it nice too. That looks good. So you're also going to see me using this right here. There's a reason for this. When using the Outlaw, right here, the presser foot, if you see the presser foot right here, problem with this is in leather, thicker leather, I know the Outlaw is advertised, it gives, you know, it'll stitch up to I don't know, 3/4 of an inch up through leather. Yes, it's true, it will, but it also leaves a massive indentation in your leather as the presser foot goes along. So what I've done, so I've got this piece of cardboard right there that I'm gonna let the presser foot kind of rest on. So we got our first stitch in the second hole, leaving the top hole open. I'll show you why we're gonna do that in just a minute. I'm gonna bring that needle down right inside that pre-cut hole that we cut. You gotta hold tension on these two strings right here for the first couple of stitches. We're gonna go right there in that hole right there. Perfect. Now we're just gonna go right along. Make sure your presser foot stays on your little piece of cardboard. You can use leather strips, whatever you want. That way you don't get that indentation on your leather from the presser foot. Again, the piece of tape that I have here, the reason we have this tape is if you don't put some kind of little barrier buffer down, the back of your whatever you're stitching can get scratched. Now, you'll see what you got. Nice clean stitching on the back right there. Stitching's nice and clean. No scratches because we had a little buffer tape, excuse me. Now we got these right here. Got your nice clean stitch on the front. You don't have a groove that you would normally have with this presser foot when you're sewing leather with the Cowboy Outlaw. We're going to show you how we do a tie off on this thing. That'll give you a nice clean tie off where you ain't got to worry about having to back stitch. I don't mind back stitching. It's just really annoying when it leaves a big knot. Back stitch just leaves a big knot where you're trying to tie off. Looks good, don't it? All right, so you can see where we left the top hole open. So I've left the top hole open for Kelly to do a finishing tie it off. I know this is aggravating, but it makes a much cleaner stitch when you do it this way. She's just going to go right in and do kind of a cowboy stitch, pull it through. Basically what she's doing is doing a back stitch versus by hand versus doing it with the Outlaw, because the Outlaw really doesn't do a good back stitch. It's actually really bad. You'll spend more time trying to correct the stitching than you will if you do it this way. Alright, now what you do is just going to clip it off even. Tuck in your tie off. Perfect. Once you tuck it in, do the same on both sides, and we'll hammer it down. Always like to do a little hammer on the edge of the stitches. You know how easy this is. Basically just going to pull it through. Pull them both through to meet in the middle. Just like that. Tie it off. Kind of hard to follow you. Snip it off there. Now right there you can either tuck that in or you can burn it. They're a little lighter if you want to burn it off. You can just burn it off. Kelly likes to tuck them in. It gives her a sense of accomplishment. And there you have it, guys. Boom, pow, what? Come on, son. Alright, so there you have it. That was how we do it. Missy, thank you. There it is. One more time. I got to throw it one more time. So we did the extreme distressing on there. I love it. Did the extreme distressing. Y'all saw that? That was great. Play around with it, guys. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Be sure you give us a like, share, follow. If you want to see more videos in the future, I'll do more videos. I know I hadn't done any in a while. We're going to try to do more. Just getting time to do all these things is hard. This is what I really wanted to do because I had a lot of people asking. Anyway, till next time, guys. I'm out.